Ambassador Zorn's 4 slender tentacles trembled as he adjusted his ceremonial sash. The curved walls of the High Council chamber seemed to close in around him. Thousands of eyes from dozens of different species watched his every move. This was the most important presentation of his career. Esteemed council members, Zorn began, his voice translator converting his natural clicks and whistles into the standard galactic language. For 300 cycles, we have observed the blue-green world known as Earth. For 300 cycles, we have debated the nature of its dominant species. Today, I present our findings and our proposal for first contact. The massive view screen. Behind him lit up with images of Earth, its cities, oceans, and the curious bipedal creatures who had spread across its surface like a living tide. Humans, Zorn continued, are an evolutionary anomaly. They possess no natural armor. Their skin tears easily. They have no claws, no venom, no significant physical advantages over the other mammals of their world. And yet, they have become the unquestioned rulers of their planet. Council Member Vex, a hulking reptilian from the Sirius sector, leaned forward. Then they must possess formidable weapons technology. All dominant species eventually turn there. Scientific prowess toward warfare. That is what makes humans so puzzling, Zorn replied. Their weapons technology, while destructive, is not particularly advanced compared to many pre-Confederation civilizations. Their true strength appears to be psychological rather than physical or technological. The images on the screen changed to show humans in various settings, building shelters after natural disasters, caring for young that weren't their own, forming cooperative groups that crossed geographic and genetic boundaries. Humans display unusual behavioral patterns. They form social bonds that often defy rational self-interest. They show remarkable adaptability in crisis situations. And most curiously, they exhibit what our xenopsychologists call creative problem-solving, at rates far exceeding galactic norms. The council chamber filled with murmurs. Creative thinking was rare in the galaxy. Most species relied on instinct and learned behaviors to survive. True innovation was considered a precious resource, one that had propelled the Confederation to its current technological heights. Council Member Zira, her feathered crest rising with interest, spoke next. You've convinced me they're unusual. Ambassador, but why risk contact now? Our observation protocols exist for good reasons. Zorn's upper tentacles crossed, a gesture of acknowledgement in his culture. Because of the pattern, council member, the chamber fell silent. The pattern was the Confederation's most closely guarded secret, the disturbing fact that over the past century, 16 different unauthorized contact attempts with humans had ended in the same way. The contacting species either disappeared entirely or returned radically altered, refusing to discuss what had happened and warning others to stay away from Earth. Our analysis suggests that humans have developed some form of test or evaluation system for alien species, Zorn explained. Those who fail this unknown test face consequences we can only speculate about. Those who pass, well, we don't know if any have passed. Head Counselor Mora, the eldest member of the High Council, spoke for the first time. Her voice, coming from a body that resembled a floating crystal formation, resonated through the chamber. You wish to be the first to pass their test. It wasn't a question. Yes, Head Counselor, Zorn replied. But we must approach differently than our predecessors. We must understand the test before we take it. The view screen changed again, showing a simple dwelling on Earth surrounded by agricultural fields. This is the residence of a human named Jack Miller. He lives alone in a region called Iowa, growing plant food and tending to domesticated animals. He represents what our research indicates is a typical human, neither a leader nor an outcast. We propose to subject him to our own series of tests before attempting direct contact. Counselor Vex snorted, a jet of steam escaping his nostril ridges. "You wish to test the tester?" "Precisely," Zorn said. "Through carefully staged encounters, we will assess his reactions, his problem-solving abilities, his threat responses, and his communication attempts. Only when we understand how humans think will we risk direct contact." The council deliberated for several hours, with Zorn answering increasingly technical questions about the proposed test protocols. Finally, Head Counselor Mora called for a vote. "The Council approves your mission, Ambassador Zorn. You will depart within 3 rotations. Select your team and prepare your equipment. Remember, observation only until all preliminary tests are complete." Zorn bowed, his tentacles sweeping the floor in a gesture of deep respect. "Thank you, Council. We will not fail." As Zorn left the chamber, he felt a mix of excitement and dread. No one in the Confederation truly understood humans. Their art made no sense. Their social structures seemed chaotic. Their emotional responses appeared random. And yet, something about them had frightened away 16 different species. What test could be so terrible? What secret did humans guard so fiercely? 2 days later, aboard the research vessel Stellar Inquiry, Zorn addressed his team of 12 specialists. They represented the best scientific minds in the Confederation, experts in xenobiology, communication, psychology, and defense. "Our mission has 3 phases," Zorn explained, bringing up a holographic display of Earth. "First, we observe our subject in his natural environment for 30 Earth days. Second, we implement a series of non-invasive tests to gauge his responses. Finally, if the Council approves, we attempt direct contact." Dr. Kell, the team's psychology expert, raised a clawed hand. "What if the human detects us during the observation phase?" "Unlikely," replied Security Officer Maran, her scaled skin reflecting the blue light of the hologram. "Our cloaking technology exceeds anything humans can detect. To them, we are invisible, silent, and untraceable." Zorn nodded in agreement, but something troubled him. If humans were as perceptive as the pattern suggested, perhaps they had ways of sensing the presence of observers that the Confederation didn't understand. "Nevertheless," Zorn said, "we will maintain maximum stealth protocols. No energy signatures, no atmospheric disturbances, no communications, except during our daily security window." As the ship prepared for its final jump to Earth, Zorn retreated to his private quarters. He activated his personal recorder and spoke softly. "Personal log, Ambassador Zorn. We depart for Earth in 6 hours. The Council believes we are embarking on a standard first contact mission, albeit with unusual precautions. But I fear we are missing something fundamental about humans. The pattern suggests they possess knowledge or abilities beyond our understanding. I wonder, are we truly the observers in this scenario, or are we the observed?" Zorn deactivated the recorder and stared out at the stars. Somewhere ahead was Earth, and on it, a simple farmer named Jack Miller, who had no idea that he was about to become the most important human in the galaxy. Or did he? Lisa Bennett stood on her back porch at 3 in the morning, a steaming mug of coffee warming her hands against the cool Iowa night. Her telescope, far more powerful than what her community college salary should afford, was pointed at a patch of empty sky above her neighbor's farm. Except the sky wasn't empty. "Got you," she whispered, as her modified equipment detected the faint energy signature that had been appearing for the past 3 weeks. The readings matched no known satellite or aircraft. Something was watching Jack Miller's farm, and it wasn't. From Earth. Lisa took a sip of coffee and smiled to herself. The visitors were being careful, but not careful enough. Their cloaking technology was impressive, but still created tiny distortions in the electromagnetic spectrum. To most observers, even government agencies with advanced equipment, these distortions would appear as random atmospheric anomalies. But Lisa knew exactly what to look for. She went back inside her modest farmhouse and entered her basement. What appeared to be a normal storage room transformed when she pressed her palm against a seemingly ordinary wall panel. The panel scanned, her handprint in pulse pattern before sliding open to reveal a small communication center. Lisa sat at the single desk and pressed a button. A screen came to life, showing a secure connection icon. Observer 117 reporting, she said clearly. Confirmation of surveillance craft over Heartland Zone 8. Subject appears to be Jack Miller, as predicted by the algorithm. This makes the third potential contact scenario this year. A voice responded, deliberately distorted to prevent identification. Confirmation acknowledged. Observer 117. Continue monitoring, but take no action. Has Miller been notified? Not yet, Lisa replied. I'm following protocol. His property shows no signs of direct interference yet. Just observation. Very good. We're activating the local response team as a precaution. You'll maintain point position for now. The connection ended, and Lisa leaned back in her chair. She wasn't military or government, at least not officially. She was one of thousands of civilians who had been recruited into Earth's Sentinel network, a decentralized system designed to detect and monitor potential extraterrestrial activity, without creating the kind of centralized organization that aliens might easily identify. Lisa had been chosen because of her background in astronomy, her strategic location in rural Iowa, and her connection to Jack Miller, who himself was no ordinary farmer. The next morning, Lisa drove the half-mile to Jack's farm, a basket of fresh-baked muffins as her excuse for visiting. Jack was in his field, checking corn that had grown tall in the summer heat. He waved when he saw her approaching. "Morning, Lisa," he called, walking toward her with the easy stride of a man comfortable with physical labor. At 42, Jack was lean and weathered, his face tanned from years working outdoors. Nothing about his appearance suggested he was anything other than what he seemed, a simple Midwestern farmer. "Brought you some blueberry muffins," Lisa said, holding up the basket. "Had extra berries from my garden." "You're too kind," Jack replied with a genuine smile. "Come on in for some coffee." They walked to his farmhouse, a 2-story white building that had stood for over a century. Inside, the kitchen was clean but modest. Jack poured coffee into 2 mugs while Lisa set out the muffins. "Beautiful day," Lisa commented, looking out the window toward the fields. "Crops looking good this year?" "Can't complain," Jack said. "Though something strange happened last night. Found one of my fence posts bent this morning. Not broken, just bent at an odd angle. No animal I know could do that." Lisa nodded casually. "Could be metal fatigue. That fence line's been there since your grandfather's time, hasn't it?" "True enough," Jack agreed, but his eyes met Lisa's for a fraction longer than necessary. A silent communication passed between them. They chatted about normal things, community, gossip, the weather forecast, an upcoming county fair. Anyone listening would hear nothing suspicious. When Lisa left 30 minutes later, there was no indication that anything important had transpired, but Jack now knew he was being watched. And not just by aliens. That evening, as the sun set over the cornfields, Jack walked his property as he did every night. To any observer, it would appear to be a farmer's normal inspection of his land. In reality, Jack was conducting a methodical sweep for any unusual objects or disturbances. Near the eastern edge of his property, partially hidden in tall grass, he found it, a small crystalline device no larger than a golf ball. It pulsed with a faint blue light that was almost imperceptible in the fading daylight. Jack didn't touch it. He didn't stare at it. He simply noted its location and continued his walk as if he'd seen nothing unusual. Decades of training had taught him that the first rule of dealing with extraterrestrial objects was to never show recognition or interest. Back in his house, Jack went to his basement. Like Lisa's, it contained a hidden room, though his was accessed through what appeared to be an old freezer. Inside was communications equipment similar to Lisa's, but with additional features. Sentinel 44 reporting, he said after establishing a secure connection. Confirmation of test object deployment. Eastern field, grid coordinate 7C. Crystalline structure, blue energy signature, passive configuration. Acknowledged, Sentinel 44, came the reply. Analysis suggests scanning technology. Standard protocol applies. We have 4 team members arriving in town tomorrow as backup. Maintain normal routine. After ending the communication, Jack prepared for bed as usual. 2. Any watching eyes, he was simply a farmer ending his day. No one would suspect that he had been part of Earth's secret defense network for over 20 years, or that he had been specifically positioned at this farm because predictive algorithms had identified it as a likely first contact site. Aboard the Stellar Inquiry, hovering invisibly above Earth's atmosphere, Ambassador Zorn reviewed the data from their deployed scanner. The human found our device, reported Science Officer Trill, her gelatinous form shifting with excitement. But the readings are puzzling. He looked directly at it, then continued walking as if he hadn't seen it. Perhaps their visual spectrum doesn't register the material? Suggested another team member. Zorn considered this. No, our research indicates their vision would detect it. This is interesting. Rather than examining the unknown object, he deliberately ignored it. That suggests training, or at least prior knowledge. Should we retrieve the scanner? Asked Security Officer Maran. No, Zorn decided. Let's see what he does with it. If humans have protocols for extraterrestrial contact, his behavior may reveal them. As the alien team watched their monitors, Jack Miller slept peacefully in his farmhouse. Both observer and observed were unaware that they were participants in a game far more complex than either realized. A game where the rules had been established long before any of them had been born. The real test was about to begin. Over the next 5 days, strange events began happening around Jack Miller's farm. On Monday morning, his chickens refused to leave their coop, clucking nervously, even though the door stood open. By afternoon, 3 perfect circles appeared in his cornfield, each exactly 40 feet across. That night, all electronic devices in his house turned on and off at precisely 10-minute intervals. Jack documented everything with a small notebook he kept in his pocket, but his face never showed concern or fear. He simply adjusted his routines to work around each new disruption. On Wednesday, his well water turned a slight purple color for exactly 2 hours before returning to normal. Thursday brought a strange humming sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. By Friday, small objects around his house, keys, coins, his reading glasses, would move to different locations when he wasn't looking. Through it all, Jack maintained his daily schedule. He tended his crops, fed his animals, ate his meals, and read his books in the evening, as if nothing unusual was happening in town. The small response team that had been promised had quietly arrived. They took rooms at the local bed and breakfast, posing as agricultural researchers. Among them was Alan Wright, a linguistics specialist who spent his days sitting in the town diner, apparently writing in a journal. In reality, he was analyzing the patterns of the electronic disruptions at Jack's farm, looking for communication attempts not next door to the diner. Diane Foster had set up a temporary office in a vacant storefront, posing as an insurance adjuster. Her real expertise was in extraterrestrial psychology, specifically how non-human intelligences might attempt to understand humans through testing scenarios. They're following the standard proximity protocol, Diane explained during their evening meeting at Lisa's house. Jack was there too, sitting calmly at the kitchen table as they discussed the alien activities centered on his farm. First, they Test for fear responses, Diane continued. The crop circles, the electrical disruptions, all designed to see if you'd panic or flee. Which you didn't, Alan added with approval. The moving objects phase is interesting. That's typically a test of observational awareness and memory. What bothers me, said the fourth member of the team, Sam Kelly, is that their test sequence is so textbook. As the security specialist, Sam's job was to assess potential threats. It's like they're working from the same manual we use to predict first contact scenarios. Jack nodded thoughtfully. I noticed that too. It's almost like they're deliberately being obvious. Lisa pulled up data on her tablet. The ship hasn't moved position in 7 days. Energy readings suggest they're fully staffed, but running minimal systems. They're being careful about their power signature. But not careful enough, Sam pointed out. Or we wouldn't know they're there. Jack tapped his fingers on the table. What if they want us to know they're there? What if detecting them is part of their test for us? The room fell silent as they considered this possibility. That would be ... unusual, Diane finally said. Most species we've encountered believe their technology is superior enough to remain undetected. Arrogance is a common trait across species. Alan agreed. But if these visitors are deliberately leaving breadcrumbs for us to follow ... then we need to decide how much awareness to show. Jack finished. They debated strategy for another hour before agreeing on a plan. Jack would continue his passive response protocol, but with one small change. He would place the crystalline object they had left in his field on his kitchen windowsill. Visible from outside, but positioned in a way that could appear casual. It was a subtle acknowledgement, not enough to confirm he understood its alien origin, but enough to signal that he had noticed it. Back on the stellar inquiry, Ambassador Zorn was growing frustrated with the lack of clear results from their testing. 5 days of stimuli, and the human shows no significant stress response, he told his team during their daily briefing. No attempts to contact authorities, no visible fear behaviors, not even elevated heart rates during the more intrusive tests. Perhaps humans are naturally stoic? Suggested Medical Officer Plex. No, replied Dr. Kell, the psychology expert. Our historical observations show humans display clear emotional responses to unusual events. This human's behavior is atypical. Security Officer Maran brought up a new set of images on the ship's main screen. There's something else. The scanner we deployed has been moved. The human has placed it on display in his dwelling. The images showed the crystalline device sitting on Jack's kitchen windowsill, partially hidden behind a small plant, but clearly visible. This is deliberate, Zorn said, his tentacles writhing with excitement. He's acknowledging our presence without directly communicating. Should we proceed to the next phase? Asked Trill. Zorn considered this carefully. Not yet. First, let's see if he's working alone. He turned to the ship's tactical officer. Expand our surveillance radius. I want to know if he's communicating with others about our tests. The tactical officer adjusted their sensors, and new data began flooding the screens. Heat signatures showed regular visits from a female human at a nearby dwelling. Communication. Patterns revealed brief but regular transmissions from both dwellings to unknown locations. And in the nearby settlement, unusual energy signatures suggested advanced technology hidden within seemingly primitive structures. We're not observing one human, Zorn realized. We're being observed by many. The revelation changed everything. What they had assumed was a simple test of a single subject was actually a complex interaction with an organized human response network. Shall we abort the mission? Asked Maran, her scales darkening with concern. No, Zorn decided after a moment's thought. This is precisely why we came, to understand how humans respond to contact scenarios. We've just discovered they have protocols as sophisticated as our own. The Council will want this information. What's our next move? Dr. Kell inquired. Zorn's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep thought in his species. We will proceed. With direct contact, but carefully. Prepare the landing craft. It's time to meet Jack Miller face to face. As the alien crew prepared for first contact, they remained unaware that their every decision was being analyzed and predicted by the human team. Earth's defense network had encountered 17 different alien species over the decades, each with their own contact methodologies. The patterns were different, but the underlying psychology was often surprisingly similar. What neither Jack nor Zorn yet realized was that their meeting would set in motion events that would change the relationship between Earth and the galaxy forever. The true test was about to begin. Dawn broke over the cornfields with bands of pink and gold light. Jack Miller sat on his porch, a cup of coffee warming his hands. He had slept little the night before. The response team's equipment had detected increased activity from the alien ship, suggesting that direct contact was imminent. Jack wore simple clothes, blue jeans, a faded red flannel shirt, and work boots. Nothing about his appearance suggested he was prepared for a historic meeting with extraterrestrial visitors. But beneath his shirt, a small device was attached to his skin, transmitting his vital signs to the team. A nearly invisible earpiece allowed him to receive communications, if necessary. At precisely 6:17 a.m., a shimmer appeared in the air above his backfield. The cloaking technology that had hidden the alien's smaller craft was being deactivated. Slowly, a vessel about the size of a delivery truck became visible, hovering silently 20 feet above the ground. Jack took another sip of coffee and waited. The protocol for first contact was clear. He would make no approach until the visitor showed clear, non-threatening intent. Inside her house, Lisa Bennett watched through specialized binoculars while coordinating with the rest of the team via secure tablets. Vessel matches no known configuration, she reported. Approximately 9 meters in length, 5 in width. No visible weapon systems, but multiple sensor arrays. Landing gear is deploying. Energy readings suggest defensive shields are active. But weapons are cold, added Sam Kelly, who was positioned in a blind at the edge of the property. Alan Wright's voice came through next. Movement patterns suggest caution rather than aggression. They're being very deliberate. The alien craft settled gently on the ground, raising a small cloud of dust. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then a seam appeared in the side of the vessel, widening into a doorway from which a ramp extended to the ground. Jack remained seated, his posture relaxed but alert. 3 figures emerged from the craft. The first was clearly the leader, a tall, slender being with 4 tentacle-like arms and mottled blue-green skin. Behind it came 2 slightly larger aliens with more muscular builds, their skin a deeper blue with ridge-like patterns. Ambassador-class diplomatic vessel, Diane Foster commented through the team's communication system. The configuration matches 3 previous contact scenarios. The 2 larger ones are security, but their posture isn't aggressive. Jack nodded slightly, acknowledging the information while keeping his eyes on the visitors. They had stopped at the bottom of the ramp, clearly waiting to see his response. Following protocol, Jack slowly stood and raised his right hand, palm forward, the universal gesture of peaceful intent that had been established through decades of xenopsychological research. The lead alien raised 2 of its tentacle arms in a similar gesture. Then, in a surprising move, it began walking forward alone, leaving its security personnel by the ship. That's unusual, Diane noted. Most species maintain security proximity during first contact. It's a trust gesture, Alan replied. There, signaling confidence. Jack stepped off his porch and began walking toward the alien at a measured pace. They would meet in the middle of the field, equal distance from their respective safe zones. another established protocol that the aliens seemed to intuitively understand. When they were about 10 feet apart, both stopped. Jack noticed that the alien was wearing what appeared to be a translation device around what would be its neck on a human. "Greetings, human Jack Miller," the alien said, its voice processed through the translator with only a slight mechanical quality. "I am Ambassador Zorn of the Galactic Confederation. We come in peace and with respect for your world." Jack allowed a small smile. "Welcome to Earth, Ambassador Zorn. I am Jack Miller." He deliberately kept his response simple, following first contact linguistic protocols. "You do not seem surprised by our appearance," Zorn observed, his 4 eyes blinking in a sequential pattern. Jack maintained his calm demeanor. "The universe is vast. It would be surprising if we were alone." This seemed to please the alien. "You have been aware of our presence." It wasn't a question, but Jack nodded. "Yes, and our tests? Those too." A moment of silence passed between them. In that moment, both seemed to recognize that the carefully constructed scenarios, prepared by their respective sides, had shifted into something neither had fully anticipated: genuine communication. "Perhaps," Zorn suggested, "we have both been testing each other." Jack's smile widened slightly. "Perhaps." Miles away, in a nondescript government building, Nancy Carter watched the exchange on a secure feed. As the director of Earth's First Contact Division, she had been awakened at 4 a.m. when the alien ship had begun powering up its landing systems. "They're ahead of schedule," her assistant said, handing her a fresh cup of coffee. Nancy nodded. "They usually are. Aliens tend to overestimate how much testing they need to do before making contact." "Should we activate the welcome protocol?" Nancy watched the screen thoughtfully. Jack was handling the interaction perfectly, maintaining the careful balance between openness and caution that had been refined through numerous previous encounters. "Not yet," she decided. "Let's see where this goes naturally. Jack has full authorization to proceed as he sees fit." Back in the field, Jack and Zorn had begun a careful exchange of basic information: names of objects, simple concepts, and cultural courtesies. Though the alien's translation device was sophisticated, both were being deliberate in their choice of words, establishing a foundation of mutual understanding. "Would you like to continue our conversation somewhere more comfortable?" Jack finally asked, gesturing toward his house. Zorn hesitated, turning slightly to look back at his security team. They had remained by the ship, watching intently. "Your companions are welcome too," Jack added. "I have plenty of coffee." "Coffee?" Zorn's translator asked, the unfamiliar word coming through untranslated. "A beverage we drink. It's stimulating, but harmless. You might not be able to consume it, but the offer to share food or drink is a human custom of hospitality." Zorn's upper tentacles moved in what Jack interpreted as consideration. "This hospitality, it is important to humans." "Very," Jack confirmed. "Offering comfort to travelers is one of our oldest traditions." After a moment, Zorn turned and made a gesture to his security team. They approached cautiously, but without obvious weapons. "We accept your hospitality, Jack Miller," Zorn said. "And I am curious about this ... coffee." As the small group walked toward the farmhouse, both human and alien were aware that they were participating in a moment that would be recorded in their respective histories. What neither fully realized was that the true test, the one that would determine the future relationship between humanity and the Galactic Confederation, was just beginning. On the porch, Jack opened his door and stepped aside, allowing his visitors to enter first, another gesture of trust that did not go unnoticed by Zorn. The simple act of a human inviting aliens into his home would soon send ripples across the galaxy. Jack's kitchen had never held such an unusual gathering. Ambassador Zorn sat at the wooden table, his 4 tentacle arms carefully folded in front of him. His 2 security officers stood near the door, their eyes constantly scanning the room. The smell of fresh coffee filled the air as Jack poured 3 mugs for the humans who had just arrived. Lisa, Palan, and Diane had joined them, following the next phase of the contact protocol. "I was wondering when your team would arrive," Jack said casually to Lisa as he handed her a mug. Zorn's translator made a clicking sound as it processed this new information. "You knew we detected your communications network." "Of course," Lisa replied with a small smile. "Just as you knew we would detect your ship eventually." A moment of understanding passed between the humans and aliens. The elaborate dance of observation and counter-observation had been acknowledged by both sides. "Perhaps," Alan suggested, "we should stop pretending and speak openly." Zorn's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Agreed. The Galactic Confederation has been observing Earth for 3 centuries. We have detected 17 unauthorized contact attempts with your species, all of which ended ... mysteriously." 16. Jack corrected gently. "The 17th is happening now." This caused visible surprise among the aliens. Zorn's security officers shifted positions, their scales darkening slightly. "You have been counting our approaches," Zorn said, his translator unable to fully mask the wonder in his voice. "We have been waiting for you to approach correctly," Diane explained. "The others failed the test." "What test?" asked Zorn. Jack leaned forward, his hands wrapped around his coffee mug. "The same test you are giving me. A test of character, of intentions, of how you treat those you perceive as less advanced than yourselves." The room fell silent as the aliens absorbed this information. Outside, the morning sun cast long shadows across the farm. In the distance, a rooster crowed. "You are not a simple agricultural worker," Zorn stated finally. Jack smiled. "I am exactly what I appear to be. I grow corn, I raise chickens, I live simply." He paused. "I am also part of Earth's first contact protocol." "We all are." Zorn looked around at the humans. "Your civilization has a formal contact system?" "Our intelligence suggested Earth has no unified planetary government." "We don't," Lisa confirmed. "But some things transcend political boundaries." Alan set down his coffee. "Approximately 80 years ago, the first well-documented alien craft crashed in a remote area. The technology was beyond our understanding, but the pilot survived long enough to communicate a warning." "A warning?" Zorn's tentacles twitched with interest. "That the galaxy is full of life," Diane continued, "but not all of it is benevolent. Some species conquer, some exploit, some simply destroy what they don't understand." Jack nodded. "After that, a small group formed to prepare humanity for eventual wide-scale contact. They established protocols to test the intentions of any visitors before revealing Earth's true nature." "And what is Earth's true nature?" Zorn asked. Jack exchanged glances with his team before answering. "That's what we're trying to determine about you, whether you're ready to know." At that moment, Sam Kelly entered through the back door. He carried a small metal case, which he set on the table before taking a seat. "The readings are confirmed," he told Jack. "Their ship matches the pattern from the Proxima encounter. Same technology base, different design philosophy." Jack turned to Zorn. "Your Confederation? You've encountered the Proxima species?" Zorn's translator took longer than usual to process this question. When he finally spoke, his tone had changed. "The beings from the Proxima system are founding members of our Confederation. They are among our most respected scientists and philosophers." The humans exchanged significant looks. "Then it's time," Jack said simply. Lisa opened the metal case and removed what appeared to be an ordinary data tablet. She activated it, causing a holographic display to appear above the kitchen table. A detailed star map highlighting hundreds of systems. These are the worlds where humans or human descendant civilizations currently exist, she explained. We are not an isolated species making our first steps into space. We are the remnants of an ancient civilization that suffered a catastrophic war millions of years ago. The hologram shifted, showing various human-like species with subtle differences. Our ancestors seeded thousands of worlds with human genetic material, Alan continued. Earth was one of their cultural preservation projects, a place where humanity could develop naturally without the influence of advanced technology. Until we were ready to rejoin galactic society, Diane added. Zorn and his security team stared at the display in stunned silence. Finally, the ambassador found his voice. This is ... unexpected. Our historical records contain references to an ancient humanoid civilization, but they are considered largely mythological. Not myths, Jack said quietly. Memories. Sam Kelly touched the tablet, changing the display to show a smaller set of highlighted systems. These are the worlds where our monitoring stations have detected Confederation activity. Your expansion pattern suggested you would reach Earth within the next decade. So we decided to test you, Lisa explained, to see how you would approach a seemingly primitive world, whether you would come with respect or with conquest in mind. Zorn's tentacles moved in what the humans had come to recognize as a gesture of deep thought. All this time, we believed we were testing you ... And we were testing you, Jack finished with a gentle smile. That's often the way of first encounters. Both sides carefully studying each other, looking for signs of character and intention. And did we pass your test, Jack Miller? Zorn asked. His 4 eyes fixed intently on the human farmer. Jack looked at his team, receiving small nods from each of them. Then he turned back to Zorn. Your approach was respectful. You observed before acting. You came in peace, with curiosity rather, than weapons. And most importantly, when offered hospitality, you accepted it in the spirit it was given. He extended his hand across the table. Yes, Ambassador Zorn, the Galactic Confederation has passed humanity's test. After a moment's hesitation, Zorn extended one of his upper tentacles, wrapping it gently around Jack's hand in a gesture that bridged millions of years of separate evolution. And what happens now? The ambassador asked. Jack smiled. Now the real work begins. Earth will formally acknowledge the Galactic Confederation, and our representatives will begin diplomatic relations with your council. As the meeting continued into the morning, with plans being made for larger delegations and formal announcements, Jack looked out his kitchen window at his cornfields shimmering in the summer heat. Soon, his quiet farm would be the site of a historic marker, commemorating the place where humanity officially rejoined the galactic community. But for now, it was just his home. And he had alien guests to serve more coffee.